tells me about your word on Sundays. I never go, but tell them I'll go with them one day. They say you have the answers I've been longing for, but somehow I don't feel like I'm on one accord with you. I believe you have something for me alone. Humbly, Lord, how do I approach the throne? Cause all I have to offer, Lord, is it enough? I give you my trust, cause
I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dried the eyes of many, healed more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me?
I heard how you saved Daniel from the lion's den and stayed with Jonah in the well he was within. I need the protection, I know I'm not worthy.
I'm in a state of desperation, Lord, I need that mercy.
I believe you have something for me alone. Humbly, Lord, how do I approach the throne? Cause all I have to offer, Lord, is it enough? I give you my trust, cause
I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dried the eyes of many, healed more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you won't dry the eyes of many, heal more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you dry the eyes of many, heal my heart. Can you take me in? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dry the eyes of many, heal more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me?
You're listening to Launch with Kim
and Dr. Newt on
Praise.fm.
Hello, welcome to Launch with Kim
and Dr. Newt.
Yes, and hey, Al Booker, come on, Pastor. Good to see you, and all of you guys who are tuning in. We are so glad to see you again tonight. Hope you had a great day and a great weekend.
Yes.
It was very relaxing for me. Somebody getting in
I
trouble.
gotta stay in the screen.
Staying in the screen. Remember how he used to be pushing me and telling me to move over and stuff? I'm about to start tugging on him. Telling him to move over. Oh, God. Glory to God. He has been so good. I was telling you that I had a physical therapy this morning, and I was driving home. And as I was driving home, for those of you who are coming in, I'll just chit-chat a little bit while, I don't say chit-chat, but talk a little bit while Newt's working on something. As I was driving home, I started to go the quick way to get home, and I just felt the Holy Spirit telling me to go another way.
Yes.
So I went that way, and as I was going that way, the Lord started talking to me and reminding me of the promises that he gave me, showing me things that I had asked him for over, well, Newt and I have been married 21 years, but something that I had prayed and asked him about 27 years ago that I didn't even think about anymore. And he started telling me, and I did this for you. And then I told you, you asked me for this and I gave this to you. And it was all of these things that he reminded me of, that he answered for me on behalf of my cry, my prayer, my belief. And some of those things I just asked him for because I needed something right then. I didn't even know that I was unlocking something from my heart. And basically my heart was pure, but I was unlocking something that he actually heard me and responded. Now, although it was years later that it occurred, it never dawned on me when it happened that this was something you asked me for. So what God was showing me today is, you asked me for this, and he showed me at different places where I was in my life when I asked him.
Wow.
And then today he let me know, now I've done this and I've given you this, which is always a sign of him saying, so if I've done these things for you and the things that you've asked of me, I've given them to you. Now, as you know, now what is it that I need from you? Or here's what I need from you. So it was such a wake up. It was a humbling experience. It was a beautiful experience, an opportunity to thank God for something that he did that I may have taken for granted or just didn't even consider.
Right.
But I was so grateful. I was so thankful. The reason why I'm mentioning it to you is sometimes we get so busy wanting and needing and asking that when those things happen, we don't even realize that God has done it. Who were those, the 10? Were they leopards and only one returned to thank them?
Mm-hmm.
Not that the other ones weren't thankful, but at that moment they didn't even consider it. It's almost like an expectation.
Oh.
But without the thank you of the expectation,
That's good.
you know, we end up finding ourselves always wanting,
Right.
and never taking the time to thank God for what it is that he has done.
Right.
So my mention of that today is to share with you. I feel like whenever God gives me something like that, and it's so significant that that's something for someone else, go back and consider those prayers. Go back and consider the things that you asked him and those promises you said, Lord, if you would just do, Lord, I will. Go back. First of all, thank him, repent, because for being so inconsiderate, and then appreciate what he's done, and then ask him, now, Father, that's right, make a song up, honey. What would you have me to do?
Wow.
When
you were telling me that this morning, you were talking about how, you got misty-eyed, man. I had the warm fuzzies while you were talking, because I was thinking, look where he bought me from.
Yeah.
Look where he bought me, and I could see different stations in life, different dark places, different heavy places, different places where I felt like my feet were stuck in the mud and I couldn't even move. Quicksand sucking me in, and then like look now, like you're free. There's no shackles on you. There's no. You're not dusty. You're not smelling like that. The only way people know that I've walked through what I've walked through is if I tell them.
Right.
That's crazy.
But you don't look like just like the 3 Hebrew boys. Just like coming out of that den, they didn't smell like smoke. They didn't look. You don't look like you've been through those things. He has. I thought of the scripture, I come that you might have life. But the part that I loved was, and that.
What? Yeah.
That.
How you define
and
that?
That. You'll have it more abundantly.
Yes.
And I started thinking about.
John 10:10.
Yeah, John 10:10. What is life?
Exactly.
What is life to you? How do you define life?
Yep. And that's what you'll have.
That's what you'll have.
More abundantly. You know what else I like about that scripture?
Come on with it, baby.
Because Jesus said, the enemy coming to steal, kill, and destroy.
Right after it said.
But then he said,
but
listen.
But listen here.
But I came.
But I come.
I said it's kind of like
cancel that thing out.
I'm a teacher, and sometimes kids will say, well, my mom told me. I'm like, but this is my classroom. I said, or first play, you go around, you come back home, and your mom's, they'll say, but Johnny's mom lets him do, but I said, and when Jesus said it, was like that authority, but I said, I come to give you life and give you that life, however you define it.
Exactly.
More abundantly. What does that even mean?
What does that mean? I started looking over that whole thing from John and just breaking it down piece by piece and thinking about, the word life itself, and what life means, what the definition. I mean, Webster's or Merriam, she came up with a portion of what she understood of life, but you can look at trees and see life, and it just depends on how life is defined for each of those things.
Exactly, and he's going to give you that.
Yes, I like and that. more abundantly. So whatever you define as life, he's going to give it to you more abundantly, just because he came.
Right. Yeah.
There was a gate that you had to get in, and he was trying to let them know that if you come in this gate incorrectly, then you're going to be viewed as a robber or a thief. But if you come in and let the gatekeeper let you in, then you come in correctly. You're legal. So this is what the encouragement is. Make sure that we come correctly.
Right.
Make sure that we come in correctly.
Right.
And then that life you can have. You can define it, and you can have it more abundantly.
Yes.
So we've been talking about actually creating greatness. The opportunity to live in greatness. How do we define life? Yes, Jesus is the definition of life. He is, but you know what, Pastor Clay? Here's the other part of it. That then he also allows you to define the things that he's placed in your hand, because he's given you a tree.
Right.
He didn't tell you to make a table. He said, here's a tree. You can make a table, a chair, a bench, or whatever. So then you get the opportunity. I love that he is the definition, but now you get the opportunity to define how great your life's going to be.
Yep. He said, this is your realm.
This is your realm.
This is your realm. I made the earth for you to run it like I would run heaven.
Yes.
Yep. You get to be me here.
Exactly. So this is the making of greatness.
Yes,
so we
indeed.
Started last week. We're going to continue on because we're going to talk a little bit more about. We talked about making greatness.
Yeah,
the way to make. One of the things that we talked about was how your name precedes you.
Right.
And here's the thing. Let me just say, since I was talking about John 1 and the whole way down to 10, one of the things that I loved about this scripture is that Jesus actually told them something, and in the scripture it said they had no idea what he was talking about. They didn't. I think it was verse 9 or so. They were like confused, like, wait, because it was deeper than what they could understand.
Yes.
And so when I was saying last week that your name precedes you, just like when they say they're going to call his name Jesus,
right.
There were some things regarding his name. Right. And the same thing with you. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it shouldn't be spoken.
Right.
Just because you don't get it, because Jesus went on and told the disciples anyway in John. He told them he gave them a lesson that was difficult for them to understand. It did not stop him from giving the lesson. You still need to hear it, because later on, in the replay, you're going to be able to figure this out and say, oh, that's what that meant.
Right.
So anyway, God bless you guys. We're going to continue on with this greatness and the making of greatness. And Newt's going to start us off tonight. Come on.
I'm expecting.
And hi, Pastor Clay, we're so glad that you're in. Al Booker, I can't see the others because for some reason Facebook did some shift where I can't click over and look at it.
So again, I like to kind of remind folks that this is Launch with Kim and Dr. Newt. So Launch to us, we feel like it's part of our ministry, a major part of our ministry to connect people with a portion of themselves, so that you can launch that which is within you. So I don't know what that means
whatsoever
to you.
That is.
Yeah, I don't know what that means to you. I just know that it's part of our ministry to help you recognize you, to introduce you to yourself, and to give you some good principles that you can use to fuel your mind and fuel your heart, so that your spirit man and your soul man synergize, and you can say, when the winds and the storms come, say, I got one more, and keep it moving. So today we want to talk about 3 causes of failure. 3 causes of failure. And I know we haven't said this in a long time. Get your launch pad out.
Get your launch pad.
Get your launch pad out, and we're going to give you three causes of failure. So the first cause of failure, we're just going to jump right in. If you guys are ready to go,
come on,
is relationships.
Good.
Relationships. So relationships are the most important thing, and I don't know why we don't talk about these more in church relationships, because that's like the one thing on this planet you cannot avoid.
Right.
There's going to be a relationship somewhere with somebody, positive, negative, good, bad, ugly, sweet, sour, whatever. It's going to be, you got to learn to relate with people. So one of the biggest causes of failure is an inability to get along with others.
Wow.
It's that inability to create alliances or networks. Almost everything that we know of is built on the principle of a network.
Yeah.
Whether it's electronics, relationships, money, land, business, it's networks.
Yeah.
And I forget, I don't know who said it first, but I've heard it said a lot. Your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth, which again goes into relationships.
Or your next work.
Yeah, right. Yes. So it goes back to relationships, meaning you have to guard your heart or guard your greatness. Meaning this, you don't give everyone access to your greatness.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about the relationships in your life. And we probably a year ago now, close to a year ago, we taught on a lesson. We might have did it 2 weeks. We talked about relationships, 6 types.
Yeah.
And we got that from, we heard T.D. Jakes say that. We heard Tony Miller say it. We heard Ron Carpenter say it. We kind of took what they all said and mixed them all together and put them into one for you when we talk about relationships. But anyway, relationships, that inability to get along with others, to create alliances, and to maintain friendships. That is one way to cause failure in your life and in your purpose. And here's your example, your biblical example. In 1 Kings, I believe, 12th chapter, somewhere around that first 10th verse in there, the 12th chapter, 1 Kings, right after Solomon passed away and his son Rehoboam took over, right? So Solomon was a bad man. He built that temple, he did all that stuff, right? So you got to think about it. If he did all that, he must have been driving his people.
Yeah.
You ever read that, read the detail of all that stuff and how he got the wood from everywhere and all this. That wasn't no easy task.
No.
So he was working his people.
Right.
Right? So Rehoboam comes in, his son, and the people of the nation, the elders and stuff, they go to Rehoboam, before he kind of starts off his administration, kind of like Biden just took over in that first 100 days. They went to Rehoboam and said, listen, here's what you can do. Your father was a hard taskmaster. How about you take a little easy on the folks, and you'll gain their loyalty, and be able to produce much more. So what Rehoboam did, instead of him listening to the elders,
right,
and those that were working along with Solomon all along, he went to his friends who didn't know anything. That's a whole nother topic in itself. But he went to them, and when the elders came back to Rehoboam, he said, listen, you think my father was tough?
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Watch me. Watch me. Watch me. He was like, watch me. Right? And he worked them even harder. And it wasn't long after that his kingdom began to already divide. And that's where you got Israel divided into 2 pieces, Judah and Israel. And so that's when the prophet came and ripped it into 10 pieces, coded it into 10 pieces. He said, 10 will go here, 2 will go there, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, relationships, that's your example.
Yeah.
Maintaining those relationships will determine your success or failure. Right?
Especially in the beginning.
Yes,
Goodness
indeed.
gracious, he
Yes,
was
indeed.
a mess.
Yes, indeed. So we don't have a lot for you, so you got to be taking notes. Right? Here's another one. You ready? The second one is quitting before the miracle. Quitting before the miracle.
Oh, our worth pertaining to.
Okay.
Pastor Clay said we also have to know our worth pertaining to relationships.
That's true. That's true. You have to know your worth so you can know how to position those relationships in your life.
Yeah.
Right? So quitting before the miracle, that's number 2. Number 1 was relationships, maintaining those relationships. Number 2, and we could talk about that the whole hour actually, relationships, but we're not. Number 2 is quitting before the miracle.
Yeah.
Quitting before the miracle. And when does that happen? We quit a lot of times, sometimes before we even start, we say the once I's. So once I do this, then I'll do that. But once this happens, then I'll such a. So the once I's kind of engulf us, and we tend to walk away from our task before we finish. So just a few examples for you, because like I said, we don't have much tonight. Just want to make you think, right? But remember blind Bartimaeus when Jesus was coming by?
Yeah.
And he was, Jesus! And he was like, you know, in the ushers, not the ushers, but the ushers. The ushers with the white gloves on, was saying, stop that.
Stop yelling.
Be yelling like that to Jesus. Jesus! So what did Bartimaeus do? He yelled even louder. Jesus! Jesus! Now I have a question for you. What if he would have waited until they said he was allowed to scream? What if the once eyes took over in Bartimaeus this life? Would he still be blind?
Wow.
How many times have once eyes?
Would he have
Yes.
Exactly.
How many times have once eyes made us quit a task before a miracle? Or how about this? How about the man at the pool of Bethesda?
Right.
Remember him? So he sitting at the pool. For those of you who don't know, there was this pool of water that would get troubled by an angel, and whenever that water bubbled and boiled or whatever, if you were the first person that got to the water, they would be healed, right? So this dude was lame; he couldn't get to the water. Was it Jesus? He came by.
The water trouble.
Yeah, but who came by and talked to him? Was it Jesus or Paul? Man, Bible scholars out there.
Look, let me see. Pool of Bethesda. I thought it was angel to trouble the water.
No, but who came to him and said, "Stretch out your hand"? That's Jesus, right? See, Bible scholars. Somebody put it in the chat for us.
Let me find out.
Right? So
I don't
came by and said
remember
to him, "Listen. What's wrong with you? Why are you sitting here?" He said, "No, there's nobody to put me in the water, right?" So he asked him. He said, "Do you want to be made whole?" Right? And the man said, "Yes." So then he said to him, "Listen, stretch out your hand." No, he said, "Take up your bed and walk." Right? So what would have happened if he didn't take that bed up and walk when he was told to, when that healing was in his way? What if he would have said, "I'll take my bed up once I do this or once I do that"?
He actually started like that.
So what would have happened if he didn't do that? Would he have received? Would he have been made whole? So we're trying to get you to see quitting before the miracle is the second reason why you will see failure in your life and not succeed in anything. Got another example for you. Remember Elijah's servant? Elijah said, "Listen, go out and tell me what you see." He didn't even tell him what he was looking for. He just said, "Go out and tell me what you see." So the servant, out being obedient, goes out, doesn't see anything. He went out 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Went out 7 times, came back and told Elijah, "I see a cloud the size of a man's hand." Now, what if Elijah's servant didn't go out or said, "Okay, I'll go out once I finish shining these shoes, or once I finish doing this, or once I finish doing that"?
Yeah, Jesus.
Right? What if Elijah's servant wouldn't have done that? What if he would have quit before the miracle? He's sending me out here to look for something. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I done been out here 5 times, right? And what if he'd have quit on the 6th? Would Elijah have been able to make it to tell Ahab to go and to make it back, to outrun that chariot and get there before him? Would we have seen the rest of those miracles? Would there have been an Elisha? I mean, I don't know. Just say it, you know.
Right.
Here's another one of my favorite. What about Nehemiah? When it was Sanballat and Tobiah was telling them, come on down
I'm off the wall.
into the plain of oh no.
That's there it is.
Right?
Oh no.
Plain of oh no. What if Nehemiah got off that wall? What if he didn't say, why should the work cease while I come down to you? Right? How many times has our work ceased?
Right.
Because we came down to something that was calling us in the plain of Ono. The task was too rough and inconvenient. It wasn't popular.
Yeah.
We wanted to hang with such and such. They was talking about us, so maybe it's not of God. I don't know.
I was uncomfortable. I was embarrassed.
You fill in the blank. You get honest and fill in the blank. I just don't feel like it. You know, how many times did that happen? And you came off the wall and you quit before the miracle. If Nehemiah would have done that, would the wall have ever been rebuilt? Would Jerusalem ever have been a power city again? You know, just saying, just wondering, right? And here's the one everybody knows. Remember, children of Israel were in that valley, and they were fighting, and Moses was up on the hill, and as long as he held up that staff, what happened? The army won, right? So as his arms got tired, who was it? Was it Aaron and somebody else helped hold his arms up? What if they didn't hold his arms up? What if they decided they were tired too? Would the children of Israel been wiped out that day before they even got really into the wilderness? Would they have seen the promised land? I know God's word is going to take place, but I'm just saying, there's a difference between destiny, and destination. You could be destined for a thing, right? Because that's part of your design. That's part of what you're formed to do. Destined. That's the preferred will. That's your Jeremiah 29:11. That's your Jeremiah 5, 1 and 5, right? That's what you're destined for, right? But along the way, we make decisions and choices.
That's right.
So my destiny and my final destination, they're not attached to how I'm formed.
Right.
They're attached to my decisions.
What you do.
That's on me.
Yes, it is.
So what we're saying is don't quit before the miracle. If you've seen the miracle, if you've heard the miracle, God has placed that in your spirit, that means it's already done, because he does not operate in time. He doesn't say a thing until it's already done.
Right.
We're the ones that got to get to the end from beginning to end. He's already Alpha and Omega. So anyway, the third one, what did we say? Relationships? Right?
Really get along with others, create alliances, maintain friendships.
Right? We got quitting before the miracle. Don't get the one size. One side do this, one side do that. Don't get the one size. Don't wait. Don't quit before them. Don't come off the wall. And then the third one, the final one we want to share with you tonight is procrastination.
We can all talk about
procrastination. You know, all of these are me. I'm really talking to myself. This is really a study for me. It really just decided to share it with you. So procrastination, and I like to say this: our big butts get in the way. Yep. We start saying, but this, but that. I would do this, but they, but she, but he, but I, but we can't, but all those big butts get in the way.
Yeah.
And then what? Procrastination. We wait. The second thing as far as procrastination is, I'll give you two scriptures. Ephesians 5, 15 through 17, but I'm really just going to read 17 for you, right? So you can read 15 through 17. It talks about wasting your time. I'm going to read from the Message Bible. It talks about wasting your time and, on mere busy work and things like that. But the 17th verse kind of sums it up, and it says, listen, don't live carelessly and unthinkingly. Make sure you understand what the master wants. I'm sorry, the 16th verse right before the 17th, this is what I want you to say to you. So watch your step. Use your head and make the most of every chance you get.
Wow.
Because these are desperate times.
Wow. That right there can get you.
Right. If you
read that one more time.
It says, so watch your step.
Watch your step.
Right? Use your head.
Wow.
And make the most of every chance you get, because these are destined times.
Wow.
Desperate times. Right?
Wow.
So procrastination, that verse 15 through 17, if you read that, you get a little more out of it. But I just want to read that last piece to you.
That's deep.
I got another scripture for you from the wisdom books, Ecclesiastes, chapter 11, the verse 4. Chapter 11, verse 4. So in this book, I'm going to read this in the, what you have? You got King James?
No, but I can.
You got New International? Okay. So can you grab that too?
The New International?
No. Just Ecclesiastes.
No, I meant in this one?
Yeah, in that
okay.
one, yeah. 11 and 4. So I'm going to read it in the Message. I actually like it better in New King James, but the New International.
I can get it on my phone if you want me to.
We are. Okay. You were already in Ecclesiastes.
Go ahead. Just go ahead.
So Ecclesiastes 11th chapter, the 4th verse. Man, this Message Bible is tiny handwriting, boy. It is tiny. So it says, when the clouds are full of water, it rains. When the wind blows down a tree, it lies where it falls. And here's what I want you to hear. Don't sit there watching the wind. Do your own work. Don't stare at the clouds. It's time for you to get on with your life. Procrastination. What's it say? How's it reading now?
What's the beginning verse?
11:4.
Okay, 11:4. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Is it just 4 to?
Just 4, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I did 4 and 5.
That's okay.
Okay.
Can you read 4 again in yours?
Yes. Whoever watches the wind will not plant.
Whoever watches the wind, can you see the wind?
Wow. Whoever reaps or looks at the clouds will not reap.
Right. So think about the wind. It's something you can't see, but it's saying whoever watches the wind will not plant, right? The only way that you're going to reap a harvest is if you plant. Now we're talking about procrastination. This is the third way this is the third cause of failure on anything that you want to do in your life. So they're basically saying if you're watching something that you can't even see. Now I can see what the wind does. I can see it moving the trees. I can see it blowing trash up the street, but I can't see the wind, right? So what it's saying is you're watching something that you can't even see, and you're seeing the results of it. Instead of using your energy to plant your own seeds, to invest in yourself, to do what's needed for you to reap a harvest. You are spending time, here I'm talking about myself, spending time watching them series on Netflix and Prime. The wind. It's the wind.
Oh my Lord.
It's not real.
Oh my God.
It doesn't impact me in any way. Just used my time. And I couldn't come plant any seeds.
Jesus.
What's it say about the clouds?
I just had to pass out on that one. That wasn't so good. I'm sorry, that was so good. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap.
So what do the clouds do?
Change, they raise,
they just
moist, and hang above.
They soak up the moisture, and they just travel along. They just mosey along. What's really moving the clouds? It's the wind. It's the current, the air current that you can't see. And the clouds have a purpose of their own, moved by the wind. So you're watching them because they're big, beautiful things, right? But they're not going to do what their purpose is until it's time for them to do it, regardless of you.
Wow.
So we get caught up in what everyone else is doing, what the fad is around us, what the popular thing is, the shiny thing that's going on. That's
or what the news says.
Right. That's going to be regardless of me. Those things are not dependent upon me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm making myself dependent upon them because
Oh, my
I'm
God.
watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So procrastination. I think that verse right there, Solomon's deep. He was he worked the people hard, but he was deep.
Mm-hmm.
So
But before you go on about that, when you're talking about the relationships in regards to Solomon, the thing that I liked is even though he worked them hard, they worked.
Right.
And it wasn't that his kingdom was destroyed because he knew how to continue the relationship that he had. He was obedient, he was doing what he needed to do, and his relationship with them had to be a good enough one
Right.
for them to carry out what he sent to do.
Right. And maybe one time
He had some issues.
maybe one time we'll come back and talk about that, because Solomon was successful because he was wise. He was a great leader.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the leadership piece kept his people moving.
He watched his step.
We want to keep you on these three causes of failure. I know this wasn't real deep and it wasn't a whole lot of
Don't say that.
catchy things to say. That's the clouds in the wind right there, right? But we want you to understand relationships. You've got to really pay attention to the relationships in your life, not just the ones that you choose to allow access to your greatness, but the ones that you choose to pour into. So it's a thing called, it's a book behind me called Emotional Intelligence, where you're aware of your emotions, how they're affecting you, and how your emotions are affecting others. Well, there's relationship intelligence, where you're aware of the relationships in your life, how they're impacting you and how you're impacting others as well, right? So you have to be able to nurture the proper relationship for the proper thing in your life.
Yeah.
And not to keep digging into the relationship piece, but and I just did a minute of medicine for your mind on this. I hadn't done one in a while, but I felt and I did it. And basically it says this: listen, as you move through the seasons in your life, and you change with those seasons in your life,
Right.
then the relationships in your life, you are responsible to reposition and reassign them as well. So as you change, the relationships change.
Right. Yes.
Just want to put that out there.
Which could also explain different provisions that happen from different people or providers,
Right.
based upon the seasons that you shifted to.
Right. Exactly.
So in this season, these are the people that God may have aligned
Yes.
for
Yes.
you in that
Yes.
season.
Right. And again, reassigning relationships, because some relationships may stay in your life, but they're no longer that person that you're with 3 hours a day, 2 days a week, and that you have to share every little thing before you make a move or something. Their positions change. I use the example of our children.
Kids.
You know, my children, my position in their life when they were young. You know, I fed them, changed them, taught them to walk and read and run and play with everyone and get along so that they can survive.
Yeah.
But then they became teenagers.
Right.
And my position, now they're adults.
Position change.
My position changed, you know, to
Several
more,
times.
Yeah, you know, to more, you know, wisdom, you know, some kind of guidance or a counselor. Now, if I would have never shifted my position in their life, not only would I'd have, you know, bugged the mess out of them, irritated them, I'd have stunted their growth.
Absolutely.
If they would have been relying upon me, you know.
So those seasons, you know, when you was talking about with the kids, they changed more often than even he mentioned. So just consider after you taught them to walk, now you're not that person that teaches them to walk anymore.
Right.
So each time, so I mean, it happens more than we realize that there are going to be people and seasons, just because, you know, our Father doesn't operate on in time, he operates in seasons. Things can shift so many different ways in your life you don't even realize.
That's the definition of a season.
Yes.
The definition of a season is that it is moving.
It is moving.
It continues to move. It doesn't sit and pause and wait. It continues. Once a season steps into that period or dispensation of a season, it's already moving.
Right.
It doesn't wait and then move. It's not like that. It's moving all along.
Yeah, time is for the season.
Yes.
Not the season for the time.
That's really good. That's really good. So anyway, those relationships, we want you to pay attention to them, and I see that Pastor Clay said the angel troubled the water. Yeah, it was the angel that troubled the water. What I was trying to get her to say, it was Jesus that said.
I went and read it.
It was Jesus that said, you know, take up your bed and walk.
Look, Pastor Clay, what I remembered was that good angel.
I was trying to confuse folks to say whether it was Jesus or Paul that said, take up your bed and walk. But it was Jesus. So anyway, the second one again is quitting before the miracle. Don't get the one size. Don't get the one size. One size can also go to procrastination, but don't quit in the middle of that miracle.
So when he's saying one size, it sounds like he's saying one size. He's saying once I do this, then this will happen. Because he's saying one size.
Don't get the one size.
One size fits all is what it's sounding like.
Oh, wow.
But you mean once I.
Yeah. Don't let the one size jack you up. Yeah, you know.
Once I do
this. Yes. So
yes, Pastor Clay, the Lord will bring certain people for a season that is part of his purpose for our lives. Absolutely. And many times they may stay in your life. You might not see them as often. Like I have some best friends that I will call best friends forever. I might not see them for 10 years, but when we get together, we still have a position in each other's lives. It's just not the same position that we had before.
So since he said that, I'm gonna push that. She said, "Thank you for the translation." Since she said that, I'm gonna push it to the next piece for you. A lot of times we say God will bring someone in our lives and God will take someone out, and that is true. But He's also telling us to be aware and sensitive to what's taking place in our life.
Yes.
He's telling us, listen, if you know that you are in a room where the ceiling is close, and that's not the room, that's not your final destination, you have a responsibility to go find another room.
Yes.
You have a responsibility to begin praying that prayer. God, my divine providers, God, place in my path, God, and then go walk the path.
Yeah.
You have that responsibility. If you sit still, if I sit still in this house,
that's where
that's where I'll stay. Procrastination.
I couldn't say the word procrastination.
So not only does God bring people in and out of our life in the flow, that happens as we're moving. So you have the responsibility to go find. If you're under leadership and it is you hit an apex and you know it's an apex, not disrespecting anyone, that just happens.
Yes.
You know, so true. I don't remember my third grade teacher.
I was going to use that example.
You know,
like me as a teacher.
You know, I got a bachelor's, 2 masters, a PhD. I don't remember. I've moved on. And if I decide to go back to get another degree, I'll get another teacher. You know, but I have to go get it.
Now he's saying it from that perspective, and I'm going to say it from this one. As the teacher, I am only going to give my 2nd grade or 3rd grade students the material they need to go through 1st, 2nd, or whatever 3rd grade that they have, unless they are deficient. And if they're deficient, then I'm going to catch them up and give them an intervention so that they are able to gain that year's worth of knowledge as well as whatever they need to get them moving to the next place.
Right.
So what I'm saying on this point is when I am done teaching my 2nd graders or whatever, I am passing them to the next person in their life.
Right.
What I was for that season of their life. It doesn't mean that I'm erased. It just means that they have fit their name or they fit into, they've morphed into who they are.
Right.
And now they're moving on. And guess what? I passed them on.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I'm no longer any good in that 2nd grade.
It means now I focus on next.
Now I focus on the next group that's coming. And I pass it on. And we have really got to be careful by thinking, by over thinking and owning.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a group. This is just kind of sideways here. I have a group of students. So I wrote the teacher prep program at our college, and I have a group of students in student teaching right now. So it's done online, but every week we do a synchronous session. That means we seat ourselves through Zoom and we go back and forth. And one of the students last week shared that they want to be an elementary teacher. They shared that they think they're going to have a hard time at the end of the year when the students
Time to give the students
have to go to the next grade, right? And so I'm really not an elementary person, and I'm really not real sensitive to some of that stuff. So I try to be emotionally intelligent about it. But I know that the fact of the matter is, whether you gonna have a hard time or not,
whether you,
they're going.
They're going.
That's why they came.
That's why they came.
If they came and stayed, you failed as the teacher.
Yes, so true.
You failed as the teacher.
Yes.
Your job is to prepare them to be successful in their next grade. We got way off track here. But
no,
anyway,
it's not off track.
So began to explain that to her. I mean, you could see her kind of, her shoulders kind of went down, and she thought about it for a minute. And was the bottom line is this: well, you're going to have to learn how to let that go. I'm not going to say it's not going to be difficult, but you're going to have to learn how. You're going to have to figure out in you how to let that class go and help them get to what's next for them.
So as a parent, and maybe that would have been a way to tell her, as a parent, you're excited that that child can walk now.
Yes.
You don't want to carry them around or put them in a stroller. You're excited that they can walk. And that's the exact same thing you have to do as an educator.
Yes.
You have to be excited. Look at my babies. They can add, they can divide, they can.
Right.
That's how you have to see it.
Right.
With Pastor Lisa?
Pastor Lisa said that applies to pastoring and mentoring and teaching too.
Absolutely, sis.
Definitely.
Pastor
We were trying to sneak that in. We were trying to sneak it in without getting on the pastor's case.
Well, the title of pastors, is defined by many things. But let's see, Pastor Clay said we have to walk it out as it pertains to purpose. Absolutely.
He's talking about when you
go
have to go find it.
Go find it.
Do you think, yeah.
Yeah.
But
absolutely, Pastor Lisa.
So again, our focus really today is supposed to be 3 causes of failure. We done went down the back road and came up to somebody's yard and jumped the fence and all that kind of stuff like that. But that's so relationships, quitting before that miracle, and the third one again, we can say them all twice today, you guys, is procrastination. Procrastinate. I'm not even gonna break the word down for you. We can into 2 pieces.
Come on.
But procrastination. So it's an advanced movement of waiting, crasting, stopping. So you stop in advance. It's basically what it's saying. So don't let those big butts get in your way. As we began to think of a thing, automatically, whether it's the enemy or whether it's our own cycle of failure, learned self-helplessness, or behaviors of kind of almost sabotaging ourselves. I'm gonna tell you something in a second. We began to automatically, once we see a thing or hear a thing, began to go to the other side of our head and say, but this happened, but I can't do that, but I don't speak well, but I did this in my past and they know that about me, but and then we'll push back away from the task, right? And if you push that task back, I don't care if it's for 1 day, it's going to be 2.
Those are those clouds.
Yep.
That's the wind. Those butts.
Yep. If you push it
Watching
back,
that.
you push it back for 1 day, I guarantee you it'll be 2 days. And then 4, and then 8, and then 16, 32, 64, 128. It's going to increase exponentially. What I just told you is 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 3. It's going to increase exponentially. We have to have an attack. Procrastination is not of God. If He's placed that in you, you got to take some step. Now you got to have some wisdom. You got to talk. You got to get some direction. Of course, count the cost, but you got to take that step. I am talking to myself so loudly. So loud.
Do you want to fall out and I'll put a blanket over your leg?
Get my Baptist shout.
Your Baptist shout in. He's from the Baptist church, y'all. Just say that's where you come from.
Right. So again, we gave you 2 scriptures. Ephesians 5, 15 through 17 basically says, make the best of every moment. Make the best of every moment, right? And do what you have to do. You make the best of every moment. It is your responsibility to take advantage of opportunities. Opportunities. Jesus was an opportunist. Paul was an opportunist.
People look at that as a bad word. That was a good word.
It's a good word. I'm taking advantage of the opportunity. I see the door open, I see the gateway, and I'm shooting through that thing.
Yes, Victoria, right? Procrastination.
Stopping in advance. That's what it is.
Fire word.
Stopping in advance. Stopping the nation. Right? So procrastination is the enemy of your imagination. Your imagination is the largest nation, the best nation that exists. It's the greatest nation that exists. Procrastination is the direct enemy of it.
That's an Ami's world.
Right. So
I had to say he got that from Ami's world.
So we're basically done. We're basically done. Oh, I do gotta say this to you about procrastination. I do want to say this. Procrastination. It doesn't just hurt you. It doesn't just put a pause on what it is that you are to accomplish or what you're meant to do. Procrastination really hurts others a lot more than you. Remember I told you in the beginning that relationships, we have to learn how to maintain those networks. Why? Because the network is the net worth, not just of you, but of those connected to you. So when you don't accomplish your task, when you procrastinate and wait, then you throw the cycle and the sequence off, not just of your life, but those around you.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a husband, you're a leader of anything, a business owner, you're hurting others.
Yeah.
That's something you're gonna have to answer for. That's a cracked seed that you just planted in the ground.
Somebody waiting.
So
he's waiting.
So do what Ecclesiastic 4 says. Listen, if you're observing the wind, then you can't sow. If you're watching clouds, then you can't reap. And if you don't sow, you can't reap. So what really matters? What is important? What should you have your hands in? And that's where we need to be today. Those are the 3 causes of failure. Hopefully you got some morsel out of that.
I know that you did. So I know that you did, because I did.
To educate yourself, motivate yourself, and help yourself grow. I don't know, Miss Kim.
So anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming on.
You saw how she looked at me. She said, "We ain't done."
Well, he went to his favorite part to end the message. That's his favorite part to say. But I just want to make sure you understand that part of the thing that in this season for us is to make sure we understand how greatness is formed, how greatness is made in us. And most times we have to understand how the enemy comes against us. With those 3 causes that cause us to fail are very, very small things that we might not even notice that's happening in our life that we need to be aware of. Be very careful and make sure that we are aware of those relationships. Make sure we don't quit before the miracle, and make sure we're not procrastinating, because it hinders not only us, but I should say it the other way. It really hinders the other person, because you have a gift. Procrastination also hurts those who God has assigned to us. That's exactly what he was saying, Pastor Clay. Absolutely.
Exactly.
One of the things that I wanted to say, and I probably should have said it back then, is I kind of know when my season is up or that season is changing. Yeah. I almost feel like I'm smothering. The message that God gives me changes. I feel like I have to speak another way. There's other things he's showing me. I can tell. I feel like I got to get out, because I'm a person that needs to be free. So if I feel like I'm suffocating, if I'm pushing myself to do something that I no longer desire to do, and it's bothering me, it's affecting me, it's because God is saying to me, okay, you need to take it to the next level. You need to go a little further. There's another direction you're supposed to be going in. That's the way he speaks to me. So I can tell by the message that he gives me, or the dream that I have, or different things that pop up and just almost like illuminate in my mind that season is either up and it's time for you to shift. So if you are hearing things, if God is showing you different things, if certain words are standing out, and they are highlighting things. Certain things are highlighted in your life. If you are feeling like you are suffocating in a place that you're sitting, then perhaps you should ask God, are you trying to show me something about the place that I'm sitting in? Are you telling me that there's a shift happening? Is this the greatness that is no longer great, that I need to move on to the real thing that you're sending me to? What is next? Ask him. Ask him. Don't just sit there and continue to do the same thing over and over again. Don't just sit there. Ask him. And then, Newt was saying earlier, start going after, start looking. See what else he's saying to you. But don't sit there. That would be procrastinating. Definitely. So I just wanted to make sure I said that. All right. You want to say your special message one more time, babe?
She looked at me side-eyed.
Did he say side-eye? I am finished with him. I didn't give you no side-eye. I am so done. Yo, he is the best. Say it, babe.
Oh, I gotta say it.
You gotta say it. You're gonna be in trouble.
She did pull rank on me.
God bless you too, Pastor Clay.
Listen, you guys, we hope you grab some morsel, at least one morsel from all of our because there's some seriousness in our planning, but get one morsel that you can use to educate yourself, because that's your responsibility to motivate yourself, and because motivation is yours. It's something you're responsible for with you.
It's your fuel.
Yeah, educate, motivate, and most of all, make sure you're always helping yourself grow. Always growing, right?
Yes.
And as usual, my friends.
All right, Pastor
Pushing you
Clay.
to the next level. That's it. Let them push. As usual, my friends, make it a great day or not, because that choice is always yours. We love you.
Love you guys. Have a great week.
Intentional, never failing. I know that all things are working for my good. Yeah, 'cause he's intentional, never failing. All things are working
for my good.
'Cause he's intentional.
He's intentional.
Hey, and he's never failing. All things are working for my good. He's intentional.
He's intentional.
He's never failing. All things are working. Hey, I know that all things are working for my good. Yes, they are. Yeah, I know that all things are working for my good. All things are working for my good. Here's why. 'Cause he's intentional.
He's intentional.
That's it. So he's intentional.
He's intentional.
He's never failing. He's intentional. Thank you, God. 'Cause he's intentional.
He's intentional.
Never failing, no. Sing it again, say that all things are working for my good. Yes, they are. He's intentional. Yeah, never failing. Sing that out, say all
things are working for my good.
'Cause he's intentional.
He's intentional.
Hey, and he's never failing.
Never failing.
All things are working for my good. Hey, all things are working for my good.
Things are working for my good.
All things are working for my good.
Things are working for my good.
All things are working. working for me, yeah. And I believe it's working for me. I can smile again, and I don't have to worry, 'cause it's working for me. Yeah, it's working for me. Yeah, it's working for me. Come on, sing that out, say that. I don't have to worry, 'cause it's working for me. Yeah, it's working for me. It's working for me. I can hold my head up. It's working for me. Get your confidence back. Sing, I don't have to worry. It's working for me. Hey, my faith is rising now. It's working for me. And although I can't see how, it's working for me. I know that He's intentional. Yes, He is. Hey, He's been doing it for a long time. He's been doing it for a long time. Hey, and I can give Him my trust now, 'cause I can give Him my praise now, 'cause hey, He's intentional. And He's never failed.
You are tuned in to that praisey station, Praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days.